the majority of people have not even heard the name of Jesus.
What percentage of that 1040 window would be considered professing Christian?
Well, I can tell you that 12% of Adventists live in that window, so that'll give you some idea. But Christians, I'd be surprised if it's 10%. If we lose our presence in the city, what are we going to do? The only thing that the local community knows on a Saturday is that there's less parking available.
God gets there first. If I can figure out where He's working and join Him in what He's doing, it's going to work. If I think that God needs my ingenuity or my eloquence, my smarts, I've already lost. Let's say somebody's watching. They're in an urban center, they've got a church, 50, 100 members. Where would you start? Welcome back to the finest moment found anywhere on YouTube. I mean, you can go and surf the rest of the channels. You can look for other programming, but you're not going to find anything better than this, unscripted, from the good people at the Adventist Review. And today you're really going to want to hang around because I've got Gary Krause, who is the director of Adventist Mission. And you're headquartered right here in the General Conference building, right?
Right, and I love how you had to check your notes to see what I do.
Well, no, he's got so many titles. I wanted to find out which one. Okay, now you're in trouble. He's also the liaison officer to the Israel field, and you oversee global mission centers through your job. And you went to Avondale College, and he's got 17 children. And no, none of that's true. I did have to look again because I think I ate out of too much aluminum cookware back in the early 1980s, and I'm starting to forget stuff. But Gary, I'm glad you're here. Really quickly, before we get into how you ended up in ministry, what is it that you do here in this building? I just want people to sense that this is not, there's this nameless, shapeless cube on the side of Highway 29 outside of Washington, D.C., but there's real people in here, and I want you to meet one.
Right. Thanks, Shawn. So we have an office called the Office of Adventist Mission, and it cares for two things: mission awareness, letting church members know what happens with mission around the world, and global mission, which is church planting.
Right. And I'm a little awestruck today. I'm fanboying just a little bit because you've got this TV show on Hope TV,
yes.
Mission 360. And it's like, I watched that show. You should watch that show too. It's on location, and we were just laughing in the back. Didn't you have something spectacular go down on one of these episodes?
You were in Costa Rica in the capital and just doing a filming in front of a building, and suddenly the cameraman, Yali, he moves the camera this way, and this guy is running at 100 miles an hour from behind me, and a policeman intersects, tackles him like a rugby player, falls to the ground. Yali captures it all on camera, and apparently he was a thief.
Oh.
And so we saw the good police of Costa Rica apprehend the villain, and it was captured there and went on social media. It actually went viral with thousands of views and shares. And it was actually the chief of police for Costa Rica commented that we were glad to be of service.
Did you have to submit the tapes for evidence or anything? Did they ask for it?
No, but I had journalists calling me up for more background information.
That's a great story. So, okay, how do you end up here? I mean, I know that I was the most reluctant minister in the world. This is not what I planned with my life, but how do you go into ministry and how do you end up in this position? In one word or less.
When I was 5 years old, I was living in New Zealand, and I wrote to the editor of our church paper in the South Pacific, "What can I do to get your job when I grow up?"
No kidding.
Yeah. He wrote back a lovely letter, etc. So my goal was always to teach. I wanted to get a PhD. I wanted to go to university and teach at university. My whole life has been sidetracked from that. So I got called to work at Science Publishing Company as an editor.
In Australia?
Yeah, in Australia. Yeah. Loved it so much. Then I got called to the media centre. Loved it so much. And then I came home for lunch one day, and there was a voicemail from a Dr. Mike Ryan at the General Conference saying they're looking for a communication director for Global Mission.
Oh, no kidding.
That was it.
That's it. And so you moved over to the United States of America.
And I wasn't a pastor. I was a communication person.
So you've not pastored a church at some point?
I've never pastored a local church.
Kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. So what's the move like? I know the whole world field is watching, but I am an immigrant to America. You're an immigrant to America. This show is brought to you by the British Commonwealth today, sponsored by King Charles is it the third? Is he the third?
I don't know.
Fourth? Fifth?
I should know.
Hey, Charlie. So, all right. So you end up in America. As you came here, did you notice any sort of I don't know, cultural differences as you move to America? I know for me, I was astonished by how openly religious most Americans were, even though America says, hey, we're post-Christian, we're postmodern, and Christianity's dying here. And I thought, compared to where I come from, no.
That was the major thing we noticed, that you'd be in a restaurant and people would pause to say grace before meal. Never seen that in my life before. And also Sunday morning, we look out the window and people are going to church. Never seen that before.
Really?
So,
yeah, I was on a shuttle coming from LAX up to the media center in America, and people were talking about the church service last week, and they actually knew what the sermon was about. Right. And I'm just talking, there's a family coming back from vacation or whatever, and I thought, that doesn't happen. Where I started doing public evangelism was where 1/3 of Canadian atheists live. I mean, it was tough slugging.
Right.
Speaking of tough slugging, let's talk mission a little bit. First of all, what does you face enormous challenges, or you deal with enormous challenges, you're addressing them. What does your office do? You mentioned briefly what the Office of Mission does, but give us a sense of what your task is, where you work, and what kinds of things you do.
Yeah, so global mission is church planting, but particularly reaching unreached people groups and unreached areas. So, I mean, every church should be church planting. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about, is there a region or a people group that we haven't reached yet? And when we look around the world today, we summarize that in 3 mission windows. 1040 window stretches from Northwest Africa through the Middle East into Asia. Second, 60% of the world's population, fewest Christians. Second is the urban window, where most people now live.
Isn't it something like 80% of us now live in urban centers? Or
60-something.
60-something globally.
Yeah, globally. And it's a challenge for Adventists because we are country living, loving people.
Right.
We don't like the cities, but welcome to our new mission field. The third one is the secular and post-Christian window, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, increasingly North America. So we are trying to focus our attention on those windows. And how can we best start new groups of believers in those different contexts?
Now, we've heard a lot of people, I'm sure just about everybody watching has heard the expression 1040 window. Yeah. Where does that come from?
It comes from evangelicals back, I'm guessing, maybe the 70s started talking in those terms.
And what is the 10 and the 40?
So 10 degrees north of the equator is the base of the rectangle, and 40 degrees north is the top.
Okay.
And it's just a rough...
So it's that equatorial band.
Yeah, so it's just a rough way, and it's not 100% accurate. Like, you've got the Philippines in the middle of it, and that's a Christian country.
Pretty Christian, yeah.
So, but it's a good guide to where 60% of the world's population live. It's the home to the great religions. It's home to a lot of poverty and a lot of wealth as well. So, and you have communism in there, so you've got a big mission challenge there.
Pretty big mix. And how does, you mentioned the Philippines, outside of that, how is Christianity looking in that strip of land?
Very poor. The majority of people have not even heard the name of Jesus.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. So we're talking, do you have, it's not fair, I didn't tell you to bring stats, but roughly, what percentage of that 1040 window would be considered professing Christian? Or?
Well, I can tell you that 12% of Adventists live in that window, so that'll give you some idea. But Christians, I'd be surprised if it's 10%.
Okay. Yeah. The urban challenge, what is you mentioned, we don't love the cities as Seventh-day Adventists. And that's true. I'm a wilderness boy. I grew up where the nearest airport was a 10-hour drive away. I think my town, we used to brag it was 5,000 people, and it wasn't. Well, we were just shooting. We were rounding up.
You were aspirational.
Yeah, we were aspirational, and it was big news when we got a street light. It's like, we have a street light in my town. I love the wilderness, and I actually kind of love the inner city. There's something about it. And I've lived my entire ministerial career in the suburbs, the part I hate the most. But what are the unique challenges? Because we love the country, and we have to work in the city. That's where the people are. Yeah. And how do we deal with that? Your support team is living out of town.
Yeah, well, we need to get more of the support team into town. Because, not everyone's called to urban mission, but some of us are.
Right.
And so, the co-founder of the Adventist Church and our prophet Ellen White said more than 100 years ago, we have neglected the cities, and I think it's even more so today. The challenges are just so many people, so diverse. You have poverty, you have riches, you have people who are busy, you have distractions. You go to a village maybe in Asia or Africa, and you put up a screen and you show the Jesus film, the whole village comes out because it's the best show in town.
Right.
You go to New York City, you've got clubs, you've got concerts, you've got theatres, you've got museums, you've got whatever. So it's a much more challenging space to even get people's attention. I mean, why would they listen to us?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And sometimes I wonder, it's like, if we're trying to, as an evangelist, it's like, okay, I can't compete with Broadway, and I'm not going to. That's not what I've been called to do.
You don't sing?
What's that?
You don't sing?
No, well, I'll tell you what. When the altar call doesn't result in any decisions for Christ, I start singing an appeal song, and people beg me, just stop. I'll go to heaven. Just stop. No, I can't sing a note. My middle school teacher told me, Shawn, you need to join the choir. They didn't have any boys. And I said, I'm not going to join the choir. You don't understand what you're going to find out why some people teach purgatory if I join your choir. And he says, I can teach anybody to sing. And I went there, and we made it 3 measures into the first song. He stopped. Everybody said, Shawn, you're dismissed. like a 13-year-old needs more, ego deflation. And
the brutal honesty.
Yeah, the brutal honesty. You can go. I had a range of 3 notes. But I don't try to compete with Broadway.
No.
And I remember with a TV show that I had years ago, but put it on Monday night, everybody's watching TV. I said, no, they're watching Monday Night Football. I can't compete with Monday Night Football. And I do better at 2 a.m. on Saturday night than I do on Monday night. And so I've quit trying to compete. We're not in the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. Jesus is not just entertainment. And there's always an audience for the biggest questions human beings have. Why am I here? Why do I suffer? What is the meaning of my existence? We don't have to compete, I don't think. What breaks my heart, I think, and I wonder if you have some thoughts on this, is one after another, not more here in the West than in the rest of the world. I see our churches have a downtown church and they decide, you know what, if we sell this, we could have a lot of money, and then they move out of town and get a beautiful country church. Mm-hmm. And my heart breaks because downtown we had people walk in every week just off the street to see who we were. And I got Bible studies every week just out of people walking in. What are your thoughts on that process?
Yeah, I mean, if we lose our presence in the city, what are we going to do? Because if we sell off all our buildings, if all our people move out, then we don't have anyone in the community ministering to the community. And this is one of our challenges too. Many of our churches are commuter churches in urban areas where we have no people living in the area. So the only thing that the local community knows on a Saturday is that there's less parking available. They don't know, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because there's no connection with the community. So we really need to have people living there. Best case, have the pastor living there, because he'll meet people in the grocery store, or she'll meet somebody in the walking the dog and whatnot, because if you're living 20 miles out in the burbs, you're not going to make those connections.
No, you don't. You come in Sabbath morning, and you're right, you take up parking. I remember one city where people were complaining relentlessly, you guys use every spot down the street, but just on Saturday morning.
Yeah, and we hate you for it.
Yeah, and we hate you for it. And we don't even, at that point, that's not the time to give them a tract.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So Jesus modeled an incarnational ministry where he was mingling with the people, showing sympathy, ministering to their needs. You can't do that by remote control,
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And I've always said, so many times we think that evangelism is dumping information in people's laps. They have the truth and you walk away. And I've often said to people, that's only 5% of the process. And they say, what do you mean 5%? Our doctrine's important, right? I said, yeah, I wouldn't be here. I wasn't born in this movement. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the truth, if it wasn't for the doctrine. But 95% of the evangelistic process is one-on-one relationships. I think 90% of the decisions I see for Christ happen one-on-one in the home, not in the big altar calls. And I know there are certain people that have a gift. They can preach one sermon, make a call, but for me, I know who's going to make a decision based on who I've become friends with in the first 10 days of an effort. I really do. And so if we don't show up, what's the solution though? I mean, we don't have presences in some of these churches. Do you have some examples of things happening around the world that you think could help us understand maybe our own urban contexts? Yeah,
I mean, we've reinvented an idea Ellen White had more than 100 years ago of centers of influence, urban centers of influence. And the concept of that is to have small centers that are connecting to needs in the community. So it may be teaching English as a second language, it may be a cafe, it may be a climbing wall, it may be a bicycle repair shop. I don't care what it is. And so, yeah, we have in city, we've got like literally hundreds of these little centres in different cities around the world that are platforms for putting Christ's method of ministry into practice.
Are there any that you've kind of walked into and you thought, oh, thank you, Jesus, this is going well, this is right?
Yeah, I mean, even just up here in Baltimore, something was started a few years ago called the Urban Life Centre, and they've positioned themselves in a neighbourhood. They've got, they started off with a juice bar and just basically a neighbourhood space where people can come in, and they're running like 100 different programs for the community, seminars on this and that, making connections with people. And I say, yeah, this is on the right path. This is Christ's method in practice. And they've got Bible studies going. They have a church plant starting there. I mean, that's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned.
It really is about people at the end of the day.
It's about connections with people.
And I think, I could be wrong about this, you work in the global field more than I do, but I think there are universals. It doesn't matter what somebody's background is, it doesn't matter what somebody's culture is, what their religious faith is. I think there are some things, aren't there, that are universal to human nature and suffering that just ring a bell everywhere. You might have to contextualize it, speak their language, put it in terms they understand, but are there universals that you think every human being needs to hear?
Yeah, I think so. People are looking for, is this all to my life? I mean, you may be a millionaire with a fancy car in your garage. You may have a big bank account, but you've got an empty life. You know, at night time, at midnight, you can't sleep because you don't know where your teenager is. I mean, you don't have to be somebody on the poverty line to be worried about your family.
Sure.
So there's this need for, is this all there is? If I got this 70 or 80 or 90 years of life, is that all I have? You
know, I find interesting, and I don't necessarily want to give away my real age, but I'm older than some people think. And here's what I find. After life beats you up for some decades, and I can say this, I'm in my late 50s, and people who kind of raised an eyebrow when I became a Christian, when I became a believer, some even made fun of me. It seems like 30 years, 40 years down the road, 35, suddenly they're calling me, okay, what do you have? My marriage has failed, my kid is missing, my health is in tatters, and you seem happier than me. I said, I don't know if I'm happier than you. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I think there are universals. Everybody suffers, don't they?
Yeah, in different ways. Yeah. And everyone gets lonely. I mean, if you're trying to do life by yourself, I mean, it can get pretty grim.
Yeah, it can. What kinds of things do you think somebody might consider? Let's say somebody's watching, they're in an urban center, they've got a church, I don't know, 50, 100 members, or where would you start? If you were handed a church, say, in, I don't know, Cincinnati or Amsterdam or wherever, what would you be tempted to do? What would you advise people to do to get started?
When the Apostle Paul was in Athens, he took some time to walk around. He looked, he listened, he got to know the situation. We need to spend time to look and listen in our communities, because often we dream up in our committees, this is what they need, and here's our plan, here's our program, here's our cooking demonstrations, whatever. But nobody in the community is interested. So we need to take time. What is it?
Right.
What is it that keeps people awake at night? What makes them happy? How can we be of service to them? I think we just need to spend more time listening. And then, my brother, the church he was planting, they went to the chief of police in the area, and just went and said, we're a community here, we've got a lot of volunteers, what can we do to help, and ask those sorts of questions rather than assuming we know what they need.
When they show up at the police station and ask that, what's the reception like? I mean, my youngest brother's a cop, so I kind of am imagining what it would be like, that encounter.
Yeah, well, this is in Australia, and they got a very positive reception. Here's a group saying they want to do something. And so, as I recall, what he said was, our biggest problem is like between midnight and 2 a.m. on weekends, where we've got unsupervised teenagers walking around the streets.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
Now, no church committee would have thought that one up, right?
No. Yeah. I saw one, I shouldn't even laugh at this. I smiled, it was very innovative. I saw one, there was a town, this is many years ago before the West started to legalize marijuana. And this guy was clipping his business card to bags of potato chips and handing them out to the stoned kids on Saturday night because he thought, I said, what are you doing that for? He says, well, they all have the munchies, so they'll eat the chips and I'm getting Bible studies.
Wow.
I thought, well,
why not?
Good on you. He's like, yeah, I guess that works. What about these places where, it's one thing. I could go to Australia where it's very secular. I've worked in cities very secular. They look at you funny if you come off Christian and that kind of thing. But there are also places where it's not just culturally discouraged. It's frankly dangerous to present as a Christian.
Yeah.
We don't want to mention countries or individuals, obviously, that are in that situation, but what do people do to get started in a place where it's virtually illegal, if not illegal?
Right. So again, it comes back to that making connections. And so we have what we call global mission pioneers who are church planters, they're lay people. They'll go into an area and they'll just make friends. If they're in a rural area, they'll work in the rice fields, they'll play soccer with the kids, they'll make friends with people, and then just in a low-key way, they will share, and they're not going to have big public meetings or anything because they can't, but they'll meet in the home in a quiet way, open up the Bible, and teach the good news. Yeah.
I hear stories, and I'm always very careful with internet stories, Gary, because hey, folks, the internet's not research. I just want to point that out. That's not actually research. But I do hear these stories of people who wander into our groups, whether it's a branch Sabbath school, a church or something, saying, and they're from a completely different religious background, I had a dream, somebody told me to come to this church, and I'm pretty sure God is telling me to become a Christian. Do those stories really happen? Is that really going on,
yeah,
isn't it?
Very much so.
I have a conviction that we don't have to worry too much about where we go, when we go, because I believe God gets to these communities ahead of us.
Definitely.
And that we're better off to ask God, what are you doing in this town, than to present Him with a plan saying, this is what I'd like to do. Does that resonate true?
Very much so, because we need to realize that God loves the whole world. He has His people everywhere. There are people living up to the light that they have, and He's paved the way for us. It's not like God relies on us. He invites us to participate with Him in His mission, but it's His mission. And He's doing many things we know nothing about.
Yeah. I teach evangelism classes, and I said, let me put your mind at ease, folks. I'm terrified of public speaking. I don't like making appeals. I hate knocking on doors. And by that point in the speech, they're like, what are you doing in this line of work?
As people leave the room.
Yeah, as they're all leaving, like, he's got nothing to offer. I said, let me tell you how most of my fear evaporated, not all of it. I've discovered one thing, and it's 4 words. God gets there first. If I can figure out where He's working and join Him in what He's doing, it's going to work.
Yeah.
If I think that God needs my ingenuity or my eloquence or my smarts, I've already lost. Yeah. And I don't know, I love reading the old missionary stories, William Carey and others who had it way harder than I did.
Oh, yeah.
Way harder than I did. But they did operate on this principle. Somewhere out there, Lord, you're busy. What are you doing?
Yeah. And the other thing too is the Great Commission says to go, but before that it says all authority in heaven and earth has given to me, therefore go. And when you go knowing that you have the one who has all authority in heaven and earth, that makes all the difference.
It really does.
Yeah.
I have faith. I have faith that this movement has the right message for this time.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, a minister should have faith, but I do have faith. I hear some people saying the world's getting postmodern, it's getting post-Christian, we need to change everything up. And I would argue, look, we need to contextualize. We need to speak a language that people understand. But I don't believe for half a minute that God made a mistake with the assignment.
Right.
He's not calling a meeting of the angels today saying, I did not see the postmoderns and the post-Christians coming.
Let's rewrite the plan.
Yeah, I really blew it. Gabriel, get a pen. We're scrapping Revelation 14.
I apologize.
Yeah, I apologize. I got it wrong. And people smile when you say that, but my challenge is always, then don't behave like that's the case.
Right.
Have some faith that God didn't get it wrong. Of course, it doesn't help. I mean, I've seen examples of people who, one person I witnessed this week, tell me about it. Well, I leaned through the hedge. Well, my Neighbor was trimming the hedges. I said, well, you're lucky you got out unscathed. I said, how did it go? She says, well, I told him, did you know the judgment began in 1844 and your name could come any minute? I said, you did not. That's like a stereotype. She said, no, that's exactly what I told him. I said, how did that go? She said, not well. I said, well, you want to know why? She said, why? I said, well, because he thinks you're nuts. It's like, don't you believe that? I said, yeah, I believe it 1,000%, or I would not be here. I'm honest enough. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that. But can you find it in your Bible? And she couldn't. I said, it's there, and you can't find it. How's your neighbor going to find it? I said, maybe it would have helped to offer to trim your side of the hedges first and get to know him a little bit. I don't know. That's just...
Yeah, that's true. It's so true, because until we build the trust of people, why are they going to listen to us?
Right. You've got to get to the point where they give you permission to tell them the hard things.
Right, and also communication assumes that communication only works if the other person listens and understands.
Amen.
I mean, we can feel good that we've delivered the message, but if it hasn't been understandable, meaningful, or even attractive to someone, how are they ever going to listen?
I agree. What makes you most excited to get up in the morning and go to work?
Oh, just knowing that I'm part of this big team of people all around the world at doing different things with one goal, and that is to start new groups of believers with hope and faith in Jesus.
If somebody's watching and they think, I want to get involved, I want to reach out, I want to support, I want to help, they feel compelled, man, the whole world, and there really is something going on, I want to be in touch. How can they reach out to your office?
Oh, thank you. AdventistMission.org is our brand new website, just redone 2 weeks ago. And on there you'll find all the mission information you want. It's got pictures, videos, stories, contact, whatever.
Good.
You can even donate to Global Mission on there.
And I think I will. Folks, I'm going to get out my checkbook when the show is done. And if you don't, I'm going to find out. I have your IP address. You're watching the show, and I'm going to find out you didn't support. Here's what really encourages me about what your office is doing. Everything we've been told is so. Sometimes people complain, oh, the GC, it's just a bureaucracy. It's like, no, folks, there really is mission. It's really going on. The work really is being finished, and we're going to get out of here. And I'd encourage you to become a part of it. Adventist Mission. .org. Gary, thanks for taking a few minutes with me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and next time I'll see if I can surprise you with some more.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's your favorite color, by the way?
Blue.
Blue. Hey, and we all wore blue today. Thanks for joining us. Same time next week. You've been watching Unscripted, brought to you by the fine people at the Adventist Review.
Thanks for joining us today for Unscripted. We invite you to check out all the other offerings from the Adventist Review online 24 hours a day at AdventistReview.org.